Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So today we're back again with another episode of MCOC character breakdowns, and today we're going to talk about Battle Realm's smallest hero, Ant-Man. That's right, or the biggest one. No, okay, let's just make it clear. Everything that happened past First Man Ant-Man movie onwards is not reflected in the character that we can use in a game. He has no ability to extend his size, and also in general his ability set is extremely weak because he is quite an older champion in game by now. And I believe he has like about 10 lines of text in his ability description in total. So we're not going to see wide, varied list of different exciting abilities. He's a very basic champion, but still has some place in today's game, and that does matter, and acquiring him can be helpful for your account. And we're going to discuss all of that as soon as I jump to the next scene. So now I have this full beautiful wall that I do need to fill with a whole bunch of text. So we're going to start with his base information. So his name's Ant-Man, he's of science class, he's a medium-sized character in the game, and his most notable tags would be Hero, Avenger, and Metal. So he can get magnetized by Magneto, so on and so forth. He is also a Chorus Glaive charge, for instance, and also fits in Avenger events, so on and so forth. And obviously pretty much all of the Avengers, I believe, maybe with the exception of like Namor and somebody, are hero champions, so that is exactly where you can find Ant-Man at as well. Now his damage is quite pathetic. Now his own damage is quite pathetic. Now he, unlike Yellow Jacket, which we discussed very recently, has actually received quite a bit of love in form of synergies, and he has multiple interesting synergies that might be worth somewhat exploring, but they will never be worth the investment in the character to actually make it viable for endgame. But at the same time, you can increase his damage output quite significantly. All of those things being said, he delivers his damage with basic attacks. All of them are contact physical attacks, aside from like a level 2, which is Swarm of Ants, which also lets you access poison debuffs. Now these poison debuffs are not the most potent poison debuff in the world, neither is his fatigue, but it's still additional way how he can access damage over time. It's kind of like go-to strategy in arena, I guess. Just hit opponent a lot and drop a level 2 and hope you how many fatigues on. But all in all, his damage output on his own is definitely extremely underwhelming. Now as opponent, glancing is super annoying. That's the first thing you need to remember, that if he is awakened, and that is his signature ability, he has like 60% chance to make any and all incoming hits glance, and it is a really powerful ability that can ruin a day for a lot of people, especially combined with Node's micro reflect. Even in 6.4, one of the kind of more annoying fights that we can see is Ant-Man that's stun immune on Spite with micro reflect. And yeah, he still gets used in quests quite a lot just for his glancing aspect. He's kind of like the king of glancing in MCOC, and also one of the more annoying opponents, especially if you are facing him without a specific counter. So he's annoying enough to make people bring in specific counters, such as Archangel, such as Quake, so on and so forth. You can obviously get him down with any and all champions depending on what nodes he's on, but it's going to take a lot of while because he can take a lot of punishment. To this day, one of the worst fights that has been placed anywhere in the contest, I believe, is that Ant-Man in Labyrinth of Legends, especially if you dealt with that guy initially when you didn't really have access to, let's say, rank 4 Star-Lord, because once he entered his second Enrage timer and his ability accuracy increased, he basically glanced 99% of the hits you landed at him, so it took absolutely forever to take that guy down. And another thing to note when you're facing off against Ant-Man would be his level 2. His level 2 seems fairly straightforward. He just does a kick and then swarm of ants kind of like fly towards you, but the timing of it is varied in the sense that it increases timing when it's closer to you, and then across the screen it flies slower. So I know quite many people still have problem waiting it. Occasionally that level 2 still catches me as well, and I'll be absolutely honest, if possible at all, if it doesn't kind of like ruin my game plan, I typically prefer to bait out level 1s from that guy, just because that level 2 is always a bit iffy. But other than that, he doesn't have a weight auto block or miss mechanic, anything like that. He's sole kind of like utility and characteristic is that he is a one mother effer when it comes to the glancing and the fight durations if you do not have very appropriate counter to him. Now, all of that being said, what is his utility? There is none really. Outside of the glancing that we mentioned, which can save your bottom when you're getting hit in the face a lot, which is exactly opposite of the objective you should be having when you enter the fight, doesn't really have any utility. You could say that ability to access poison debuffs and ability to interact with Despair Mastery could be classed as a utility, but realistically, he is more or less as vanilla of an attacker as they come. You hit opponent, you don't get hit, eventually they will die, but there's not going to be any fireworks happening in the middle. He's like one of the least fun champions, I'd say, in the contest, because when you get hit, nothing special happens, and when he hits opponents, nothing special happens either. The one interesting saving grace is that you're always kind of hopeful for these fatigue debuffs when you're closing in on your level 2, because you're hoping to place as much poison as you can on the opponent, obviously, just in order to get immediately disappointed while seeing the damage that poison actually delivers. Right, notable uses. He still somehow does manage to stay relevant though in the game, and that largely is because of his synergy themes, and mainly because of the fact that he synergizes extremely well with Ghost, and Ghost is one of the most dominant champions in the game currently. His synergy grants Ghost extra additional like 15% attack for each buff that she has, and she has ability to gain a lot of these buffs, and sometimes when interactions with nodes can make the damage absolutely explode there. But he is not, unfortunately, part of Ghost's kind of like go-to Trinity team, which would be Hood and Wasp. He's often just added in as an additional kind of like beefing up synergy for Ghost, but it's definitely not mandatory. It's kind of like a nice to have setting that increases Ghost's attack quite considerably. Typically, whenever you see Ghost used in Labyrinth of Legends, then you can always see him brought alongside on the team. Another interesting thing to mention is that Ant-Man also synergized with Nick Fury with Strategic Sabotage, and everybody knows it kind of like Nick Fury Quake synergy, but Ant-Man has access to that synergy as well. Therefore, for instance, when you're using this team, you can just pluck in Nick Fury, and then you would have access to Evade. Obviously, Ghost doesn't really benefit from that because of the way they interact, but still, point being made is Nick Fury and Ant-Man has that Evade Charge synergy, so if you do not have Quake but want to use that synergy, or if your Quake is busy in Alliance War or whatever, you can use Ant-Man as a substitute for that synergy with Nick Fury, which is one of the kind of like most dominant and popular synergies today in the game. Speaking specifically about synergies, now he, as I mentioned before, unlike Yellow Jacket, had received a whole bunch of different interesting synergies. None of them though make him really, really great, but they definitely help increase his damage output. One of the more annoying ones, for instance, I find to be with Dr. Octopus, because he has a chance to kind of deal Torn's damage back and effectively function as an Electro with Doc Ock synergy. The problem with that is because synergies don't work on Alliance War defense, and outside of Arena you don't really have any, like, I don't know, practical way how to bring that to life, because when you're in the quest, again, your sole objective is not to get hit. And yeah, so it's kind of silly, I think, to this point when we see new synergies get added to the game, and we can't really ever use them because they are clearly defense centric, and the whole synergies for Alliance or defense is entirely different discussion, which could make a decent video probably. But the point is that synergy never will get used, even though it's intriguing synergy and could significantly increase his potency, for instance, as a defender. We never get to use it. Now, offensive synergies with Wasp and Ghost definitely are helpful. It basically gives him increased attack and increased attack for each debuff on opponent. Then he has synergy with Nick Fury as mentioned, where he gets the weight charges, and he has synergy with Ronin, where he can place fatigue debuffs whenever he gets hit, and also increases that damage from his poisons. Now, to quickly jump in on, one second, where's my verdict? So basically, Paul Rudd deserves so much better. It's effectively granted and given because he's one of the older champions. He's one of the champions that should get reworked sooner rather than later. And unfortunately, The Ant-Man that we know in MCU is so far superior to the Ant-Man in this game, because this game's Ant-Man is largely based on abilities of the Ant-Man that he had in his first movie, so he can't increase his size, he doesn't have any other cool gadgets, or I don't know. It just seems very, very underwhelming character, where effectively he's just a Ghost Hood ornament that is not even a part of mandatory Ghost Synergy team. Ghost just kind of pulls out Ant-Man from the closet whenever she needs extra spunk in her attack, I guess. So yeah, that's about it. 10 lines total in ability description. I generally counted. I think 3 of those lines are in signature ability. Special attacks outside of level 2 do nothing, and yeah, I mean it's quite sad state of affairs for Ant-Man, but let's not let that weigh us down. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump in game where I have preloaded Ant-Man synergy team with like Nick Fury to get those weight charges, with Wasp and Ghost, and with Ronan, and we can see if I can get somewhat decent number out here before we finish the video. So the point is, every time you glance an attack, and my Ant-Man's like Sig 180, so he has good chance to glance an attack. You gain like these Fury buffs. You also gain attack increase every time you basically for every debuff on opponent, so more debuffs, the better you do. At this point I want him to throw his level 2, so I can, come on lad, throw your level 2. So I can gain a bunch of Fury, and then with 4 of the fatigues you should have 4 poisons here, which you can see doesn't really deal that much damage, but against special attacks that have a lot of hits, he can get a decent attack increase, I'd say. So let's go. He's not doing too bad. 12k from rank 3. It's alright. Problem with him would largely be the fact that he has no real other utilities there. But hey, it's somewhat solid actually. Like, there are champions who definitely hit weaker. Obviously this is achieved with a full synergy team, and he doesn't quite warrant you. Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna bait out at level 2. Want to push him to those level 2s as much as possible. Now, why did he throw it? Well, there is some okay damage definitely coming out, considering this is like a rank 3 5-star with no suicide masteries. No boost either. Had 10 Furies at one point, man, that's quite cool. Closing in on this fight. Well past halfway. He's at 40%. Poison sticking away in background. He's gonna drop a level 2 on me, which I gladly block. Let's go for 8 poison stacks at this point, I think. Yep, not too bad. I mean, he's definitely not gonna be a potion farming option, but if he had all of these abilities in his base kit, he would actually be a somewhat decent champion, I'd say. Getting back up to 5 Furies. 6 now. Will this finish? No, not even close. Hey, but you always have to be optimistic. Well, there we go. Wasn't too bad, I guess. Again, a rank 3 5-star, 200 hits, class disadvantage, no suicide masteries. I quite like that. Obviously, it was quite beneficial that Winter Soldier had multi-hit level 2 that you can easily block. But all things considered, I think he can pack the punch under the right conditions. But yeah, that will do for today's video. So we are finished here. So if you have made this far, then here's a treat for you. You don't have to look at my ugly face anymore. You can look at adorable baby Yoda having a drink from his tiny adorable cup. If, however, you do not like baby Yoda, or you did not enjoy today's video and you haven't tap that like button, well, then you might as well just show yourself out, because your presence here is not appreciated, or so they say. Either way, I'm done for today. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you like these, because I do plan to make these for more or less every character in the game, and do let me know if you find these helpful at all. And yeah, see ya.